me, Josh. This is a quick walkthrough of my creative packages. So that's B5 Unit 1, B5, B4, B4 Unit 1. Yeah, whatever it is. And this is kind of a walkthrough of how I've gone about making this project. I'm recording this through Loopback, and I have very little time before it starts playing white noise through it, and I can't record. So let's crack on. I started making off this project kind of around a new plugin that I'd got called, it's the Neural DSP Tim Henson archetype, and the thing that really made, that is a bad example, the thing that really made this project for me was the fact that I have, I based it kind of around this multi-voicer, and I was playing around with it. I'm not going to go into how to use this multi-voicer, but what makes it really interesting is you have the unison and the width. Width is obviously just stereo field, but you can also place these further out if you want like a wider stereo field. But yeah, no. So just to give you a feel of what that kind of multi-voicer brings to the party, as it were. So it's kind of that interesting, something you wouldn't really hear normally on a track, very polyphia. So the first thing I did with this track, first of all, my teacher came around, Alex, and he was like, yeah, it sounds really spooky. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Great insight. Let's push this further. Let's use that, take the spookiness and channel that as like a more specific category for my advert that I'll make. So that's exactly what I did. I decided I'm going to make a Halloween advert, and it's going to be kind of spooky, a little bit quirky, a little bit gimmicky, kind of cinematic. So yeah, that's what I went through. So the first thing that I did really, other than just playing around with the actual multi-voicer, was to create a melody. And to create this melody, I had to come up with some chords. So I've actually got the chords in the choir, and it's a B major 7. Sorry, it's an E minor chord and a B major 7 chord. Oh, don't do that. Yeah, so this is kind of what we've got. A couple of things to think about there is that because it's in a choir, I'm thinking about not putting roots in basses. That's where I want them to be. And if I've got anything clashy, you want to kind of start thinking about putting that in the alto section, just because that's where most choral conductors or composers put clashes. Yeah, so I've got my 7th in the sort of upper mid-range register. Yeah, so after coming up with my chords, which I actually locked into my glocks, I wanted this kind of arpeggiating glock tone. So, and I was really inspired by Goat by Polyphia. So that's you can hear this. And the things that I took away from this is that, so there was 2 different tones, a little bit of dissonance, lots of playing around with the actual tone itself, whether it's glass or whether it's wood or metal. And yeah, obviously 2 things maybe slightly out of pitch with each other, maybe a couple of cents different. So that's exactly what I did. I just used a Logic sampler preset for the Celeste, and then my glockenspiel, I went through the sculpture, and yeah, just played around to make a preset that I was happy with. So just used the glockenspiel as my first kind of preset, and then went from there. So yeah. These 2 together, just whacked an arpeggiator on it, and moved some of the notes around, so it definitely started on the root note every time. So those 2 work quite nicely together. Yeah, I think I used AU pitch to just kind of shift it down 20 cents so it sounded a little bit off. The next thing that I did was I worked through my guitar tone. Now I'll just take you through the kind of main tone that I'm using for this. Really, really simple. This is something I've dialed in. It sounds very much like Tim Henson's goat sound. Just take you in through the amp, high gain, whacking it up, make sure it's absolutely crispy. My bass is kind of topping out. I think I've scooped the trebles a little bit, which is interesting for this kind of song. Normally you think it's harsh and brittle and presence up, trebles up, but actually didn't need it, not with this amp. Because again, I've boosted the bass in the boost, and then it's very heavily compressed, no overdrive, and the way that I got around taking all that bass, pushing the bass and leaving some of the trebles out, is by using my mic placement. And here I've used 2 SM57 mics. Normally I'd use a ribbon microphone, place it towards sort of the bottom of the cab here. They're both off-axis, these SM57s, and yeah, they sound awesome, really harsh, really vibrant. Little bit of reverb and chorus, which is sort of a very distinct polyphia sound. So after I'd created my guitar tone, it was all about writing the riffs, which if you really want to know how I did that, you should probably go and watch some of Tim Henson's videos on how to write guitar riffs. Then they're not great, but they're okay. Yeah, that's the kind of basic stuff. So, moving on to my next thing, and this is kind of what brought the piece alive, as it were, and that was my sound effects. Now, there was a lot of, that's kind of it, yeah, there was a lot of processing that went on here. So, Dark Abyss is just a subby pad that goes through the whole thing. It would be great if I played from the beginning, so it would actually play. Yeah, it's kind of whispery. It's in Alchemy. I just did a little bit of manipulation with some of the, oh, oopsie daisy. Just some of the panning stuff, automated some of the panning. So yeah, so the automation on the panning. So it's just whipping around from ear to ear. I think that I used the whisper as kind of like a backdrop. It was just white noise. Really holds the beginning together. Then we have the bell. Now the bells, I have 2 bells. I have a tubular bell and I have something called a scary bell. The scary bell I got off Splice. And the tubular bell, which sounds a little bit more like this and is a little bit more regular. So you've got a sort of upper range and a lower range. And again, we have dissonance within the pitching, and I used AU pitch to kind of pitch these to the correct pitches that I wanted to, I also used, there's a fantastic reverb in the Tim Henson archetype. I flex time some crows to, I think I put, did I put a bit of echo? No, I didn't do anything. Already very wet, as in the sample was pretty, bit of a laugh, just to bring it all together. And I was all thinking about placement in the song, so what would I do if it's too... Well, I need to find a place for these sound effects to sit. I don't want them to be contrasting against things. So, for example, the kind of drop, which I have the knock, which I flex timed. I've got an echo on that. So I just wanted that to fit. Drop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Comes in. Nice. Awesome. Right. Let's move on to probably what have I got written down here? Bass. Yeah. So this project didn't kind of sound right until I put the bass in. The bass gave it lots of structure, and the way that I built the bass was just very simply to work with things like just layering this bass until it sounds pretty cool. So I started with just a synth. Let's loop this so you can actually hear my layering process. A bit more of a kind of I'm presuming this is kind of more like a sine wave, but I reckon I just use presets. Yeah, let's cut this a bit shorter. Got a heavy sub under there. Now this is where it started to get interesting, is using cellos, bass sections, and it just makes it sound more orchestral and ominous. Then what I actually did was I recorded myself and pitched myself down. I flex pitched it right down. Played with the vocal transformer to make it kind of sound interesting. Soaked it in reverb for a couple of days, and yeah, layered that with the church choir, and the church choir is the octave below me, and it sounds awesome. Yeah, and it's altogether it's a very interesting bass. So that's my bass section. And that brings a lot of form to the piece. So, for example, the bass section only comes in every kind of dynamic change. So, talking about the dynamics of the piece really quickly, the intro is obviously quiet. It starts to build within the, I want to say the sort of exposition of the theme, and then you come into the kind of chorus. I guess that's a kind of pre-chorus. Once it finishes that, you come into this probably a verse, and then you get your proper pre-chorus here, which is the proper pre-chorus there, and then back to your chorus. Yeah. All in all, super happy with how the piece went. Couple of things that really helped with dynamics was writing the piano part, which was painstaking because I wrote down the chords and then I arpeggiated it all by hand because I wasn't happy with how any arpeggiator was making it sound.